And we're live.
Woo!
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Real quick, if you guys are looking for any type of cold callers, go to callmagicians.com. We have the best real estate cold callers in the industry. If you guys are looking to skip trace any data, go to rocketskiptracing.com. And if you guys do any type of direct mail, go to letterbandits.com. This is my good friend, business partner, Kyle Stanley, the Airbnb master.
I don't know where Kyle Man ever came from, but I love that you called me that. Every time I was actually in the car with Gracie on the way back from Arizona, and you called, and right before I answered, I said to her, I was like, listen to this, he's going to call me Kyle Man. And you said, Kyle Man, what's up? Every time. I love it.
This is my we got started on our own in real estate like the same time, and like took two completely different paths. Mm-hmm. Right. I'd been working for Alan at a point up until, but then when I broke off is when you hopped into real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember I met you. I was like, who's this guy who has a goddamn sports recruiting business? Like this guy.
Keyword had.
So bro, let's get tell everybody like what your previous experience in like life and business was before you decided to hop into real estate.
Yeah, it was a lot. I was just a failing entrepreneur for about 10 years. And how about this, a better word, a learning entrepreneur. There's no such thing as failing until you quit, and I wasn't quitting. So, but I did a lot of things. I started out as a sports broadcaster when I was 22 years old in Grand Junction, Colorado. Got tired of that, realized I didn't want to take orders from anyone else. I felt like my creativity was just being like held in a box, and I didn't like that. So started my own business. Yes, sports recruiting and making videos for high school athletes to help them get into college. Stratton has a sour taste in his mouth from someone that tried to do that with him. And that business, like, while it was really exciting and something that I loved with sports and helping high school athletes to try to get the opportunity to play in college, which was really cool, just had a lot of struggles, more so on the business model side that I just didn't understand because I had no mentorship. I had no one that was showing me how to build a business. I just figured, okay, I've got a product and a service and it's great, and I'll just go sell it and I'll make money. And that's just not how it works. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, it was, I mean, literally, if I could go back to 24-year-old Kyle, who was getting out of the news and starting his own business, I would say spend money on a mentor, not spend all this money on buying a franchise. So that was probably the major takeaway there. But anyway, long story short, then I went into a multi-level marketing company for a while, went into some sales for a while. Stratton's laughing at me. He literally would not take any of the paths that I took. So, but here we are together now. And yeah, 2019 got into real estate. I was
Wait. What? Let's talk about the skills you developed in MLM, though, right? Yeah. Because I feel like that has helped you so much. Even though I don't know anybody who's actually making money in MLM.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny that you asked me this question. I get all my best like reflection moments or ideas when I'm in the shower. And last night, I literally was in the shower thinking to myself, like, if I ever speak in front of people who are interested in starting out and becoming an entrepreneur, I would literally suggest to them just get into an MLM and don't worry about the money you're making. Use it like literally just strictly as education, because if you try to go and get sales training and, you know, go into all these like masterminds where you're going to get personal development, like it's going to cost you a lot of money. Whereas with multi-level marketing, even though the whole like pull there and the attraction is like, you know, you see people up on stage making millions of dollars, the chances of really getting there are extremely slim. I'm not saying you can't do it, you can, but it's very slim. But the amount of free personal development and sales training and sales tactics and all these things that I got from doing that for a few years was just out of this world. And I didn't have to pay $1 for that. In retrospect, did I pay for products? Yeah, but I really, like, for the training alone, didn't have to pay for that. So yes, I would definitely say start there if you're low on money.
Let's talk about the grit that it taught you, because I had a girl call me the other day and she wanted to get in real estate. I was like, what do you do now? She's like, I've been doing MLM for 3 years. I was like, okay, so you got grit to you.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, talk about the grit that it taught you and the perseverance
Yeah, anyone who is in an MLM now, I always tell them like you already have developed the skills and the grit to be good at real estate, like because that's really what it takes. Um, but I think the grit doesn't necessarily come from the MLM. It comes from like your desire to want to get to where you want to go in life, and that was what was driving me. It was just like my reason for wanting to be an entrepreneur and wanting to be financially free has always been because I want to give my future family the type of life that my dad was able to give us, going on vacations and not having to worry about all this debt and, not having to go to the grocery store and look at the bank account before actually purchasing the groceries. Like we just lived a very financially free life. The only problem was that he missed a lot of my sports games. He was always working. If you ever read the E-Myth, he was a technician. He was a very successful business owner, but the business owned him. He didn't really own the business. And so I saw that and I said, I want all the benefits, but none of the like costs of missing out on family time with that. And so for that reason, long story short, kind of going around in circles here, this is why I feel like I have grit. Is I realized that early on, and a multi-level marketing company really helped me to understand and dig down deep. We call it the 7 layers of why, and just asking yourself, okay, what do you want? And then you ask yourself why. And you ask that 7 times, and you really get down deep into figuring out exactly why you really want to do that. So when you say, hey, I want to be financially free, and then you ask yourself, well, why do you want to be financially free? And then you say, because I want more time with family. Well, why do you want more time with family? And you ask yourself that 7 times, you really get down to the core of what you want. And if that truly is what you want, then that creates all the grit and the motivation that you need.
That's strong.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I'm telling you, great training.
Right. Great training. And so MLM was after the
recruiting.
Recruiting.
Kind of overlapped. A lot of these things in my life like overlapped. I would start something and then I would either get bored or like get shiny object syndrome. And then I would add something on. And then I would kind of like start half-assing the other thing while I was really putting my all into the next thing. And that was another lesson I would say I learned is, and what I just taught about actually on my podcast the other day, and just don't diversify until you've mastered something. Like don't try to go into something else until you really truly have created a solid foundation of a business or an income that is going to pay you whether you're there or not.
How do you avoid it? The shiny object syndrome.
I think accountability is a big one. Having someone around you, whether it's a mentor or a business colleague that says, hey, yes, you should do this, or yes, or no, you shouldn't do this. Like in the beginning, when I was getting into real estate, I had people next to me that I trusted and was like, hey, am I just getting into another thing? Should I not get this shiny object syndrome? I mean, I was literally a week before that starting a new sales job. This was January 2019. And I was just like, okay, I need to eventually get into real estate and I'll just get a job here before I get into real estate. And then suddenly, boom, like I go to this seminar and I'm like, all right, I need to start this too. And it was literally a week before starting this new job. And so I asked people around me and I was like, okay, here's all the things I see. I even brought my mom to the seminar on day 3 and was like, tell me I'm crazy. And she's like, you're not crazy. You were literally built for this. And so it was just having people around me that said, yes, like this is for you. Because I ignored a lot of that in other things. Like when I started my recruiting company and then got into the MLM, a lot of people were like, but you have your own business. Isn't this going to take away from your business? And I should, but you know what? I don't regret that because again, we talk about all this like training skills that it developed for me. But I would say I would have probably at that point, if I went back, said, focus on the main thing first and then bring that into the business if you think that that is actually going to help you.
And bro, what did you learn from your recruiting business? Like what's the biggest lesson you took away from that?
Mentorship.
Moving forward.
Yeah, just mentorship. Like and honestly, like be careful of who you get into business with. Because I got basically the reason I had a business partner in that was because he had money to help purchase a franchise and he had all this sales experience and he had built sales teams and systems out. But the glaring issue was motivation and laziness. And so I was looking for an active partner and he was looking to be a silent partner. And we just did not talk about that before actually becoming partners. And I basically just got an anchor. So I would say, really understanding who you're getting into business with, and then understanding like what is the path. And today it's even easier than anything, right? Like if you want to go start a business, you can literally just YouTube how to start a business, and you'll probably go down a sales funnel that will eventually lead you to a mentor. Whereas in 2012, I just
A lot of that.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of that. So that was probably, and the number one thing that was just finding mentorship.
So what would you do to identify a good partner? Like, how'd you identify me as a good partner? I think I approached you as a partner. I was like, I need someone to raise the cash.
Yeah. So I would say partners, the reason for partners are mainly time, resources, and filling gaps. And, of course, the main thing that comes in before all that is character, the type of person that you're going to be with. I think the biggest thing that I had as a gap back in 2012 was I didn't have money, but I also didn't have knowledge. So I needed a partner that was going to bring money and knowledge, and or two partners that were going to be one bringing money, one bringing knowledge. So we just had this gap now of neither one of us really had knowledge, or the desire to build the knowledge was lacking on his end. And so I would say today now, like I have partnerships with you. I have a partnership with another person in Arizona, actually two people in Arizona. And the reason being for those was resources and time. Like I don't have time to be in Arizona full time. And so I needed someone that was going to be there full time. And with you, it was literally, you knew how to get the deals for subject twos. I had the desire to get in, and I think I even told you, I was like, whatever you need from me, like just tell me what you need, and I'll do my best to fill in those gaps. And so I felt like I already knew you, trusted you. I knew your character, and I wanted to.
This was beforehand too, though, right? Like, so we had we were doing some JV marketing beforehand.
Yep.
So like we at least tested out the waters.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I liked about that was when we were doing JV marketing together, that really showed me how you work, and you are a very fair person. And that was something that really shined through at the time, because I wasn't getting deals, and you weren't just like, okay, well, too bad, you still owe me for all the time. You were like, well, dude, if you're not getting deals, why should I expect you to pay me? And I was
what's it called? I got fucked over by that call center.
Yeah, exactly.
So we fronted, Kyle paid me for some marketing, and then the call center didn't deliver any leads. And so I ate the JV marketing the next month.
Yeah.
So I ate what he was going to pay into the next month. I was like, well, I made a bad business decision on my part, so I'll eat that, and then we'll move forward going even after that. And
that's exactly the way that I operate too. I mean, I just feel like, yeah, you can have your contract and you can have your agreement, but when something happens where it's like, we need to bring in the human element to this too. For example, I manage, for about 18 other Airbnbs that I don't own, and my owners get, the profit loss statements at the end of the month. This last month, we had two situations where I was like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things that I don't feel completely right billing them for this entire thing. And so I split the cost with them. So I think you have to have that human element of like what feels right in this situation.
And I think that is so big. I mean, even like with private money, like you got to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like just making people feel appreciated and that it's human, and they're not just another number.
Right.
Right. Like they aren't just another number to you. It's like an actual interaction, and that'll pay off in any aspect of business that you go into.
Yeah. No one wants to feel like a pawn, no one wants to feel like just, hey, you're just another number, or another notch on the belt. Like they want to feel like a human.
Exactly. So now we're through. We're out of your recruiting business. You got kind of screwed over there, doing MLM, not making any money. You go to a seminar, learn all about that, and then let's talk about your journey into Airbnb. Like, because you start off in real estate, you're like, oh, I want to flip. I'm buying a couple flips. You told me about your first flip. I was like, Jesus, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, just what we talked about so I just had you on my podcast, and we talk about these deals that we do, and whether you make no money or a little bit of money or you lose money, you get educated wildly in the process. And that was my first flip. So 2009, it was January 6th, 2019 that I got started into real estate. And I was just determined to be a flipper. That was all I really saw. Got my first deal under contract through the MLS. A month and a half later, felt all big man, big shot. I flipped it and made money. And I told Stratton how much I made. It was $6,100. And he looked at this was the first time I'd ever met Stratton. So he heard, oh, sports recruiter, MLM. And then this guy only made $6,100 on his first flip. And he's like, I never wanted to talk to this person again in my life. But I learned
$100 is a lot starting out, bro. Like, you still made money.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was stoked. I mean, when I did the math, I think I put in 20 hours of work from finding the deal to managing the rehab to, everything that I did. And I was like, $6,100, that's like almost $300 an hour that I just made. Like, that's the most I've ever made in my life. So anyway, did a couple flips, and then I got this deal under contract that was going to be a BRRRR. And I was like, well, maybe I should Airbnb it. I'm kind of like doing this Airbnb thing as a house hack method. And then it just kind of got me interested. So I started looking at more podcasts of like, well, what can I do with Airbnb? And I remember it was April. So about 3 months into the real estate journey, I listened to this guy talk about this strategy called rental arbitrage and how he was making like close to $2,000 per unit net in properties that he didn't own, and they were apartments. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. I need to try this. And so I bought his course. A month later, I had my first arbitrage under contract. And I was like, if this works, I'm going all in. And in the first 30 days, I had 90 days booked at this apartment on Airbnb. And I was netting on a 1-bedroom, 1-bath in Fresno, California, of all places. I was netting $800 a month. And it only took me about $4,000 to get this thing ready. I was going to have my money back in 5 months. And at that point, dude, I just went all in. So I was so convicted that I sold my house to buy 2 other rental properties, moved in with my parents. I moved in for a good reason. My dad was just then going into chemo and dealing with obviously a lot of things. He ended up passing in 2019. But long story short, I just went all in. And so fast forward to today, it's been 18 months, just over 18 months. And we have 25 going on 28 units in Fresno and another 3 in Arizona. And, each of those averaging about $1,000 a month. And it's pretty powerful.
Right. And so what is the mix of your portfolio?
We have 6 that we own, 3 that we arbitrage, and that leaves with 19 that we manage for other people. And then in Arizona, 2 that we own, 1 that we manage for someone else. I think you just froze, or I just froze. I wonder if anyone else has seen this. If this is still live, I think Stratton just lost. Let's see. He said his laptop just crashed.
Seeing this.
Yep. All right. I'm still live. What's going on, guys?
This is still live. I think Stratton just lost.
Oh. So, guys, while we're waiting for Stratton to get back on, I guess I can just go ahead and explain to you what exactly arbitrage and and where my business has gone and why I think it's probably blown up this much. I don't know if Stratton wants me to keep going or what, but I'm going to just keep on talking. But yeah, I mean, so arbitrage is this model where you literally go to a landlord or a leasing agent at an apartment and realizing that you're only going to, oh, here we go. He's back.
Man.
You ever had that happen?
No, my laptop just crashed.
Wow. Interesting.
So it's just starting up again now.
I was about to start telling jokes and doing magic tricks over here to just stall with people. Oh no, did you freeze again? Oh no. He's giving up on his laptop. He's jumping in on his phone now.
Jeez, man. Can you hear me?
Gotta love technology.
I gotta go buy a new freaking laptop, it looks like. I can't stay on.
Yeah. Rough.
All right. So now tell me about your portfolio. Sorry, guys. Kyle's good at talking.
Yeah. So like I said, 6 that we own, 3 that we arbitrage, and then that leaves you with 19 that we manage for other people. And in Arizona, we manage for 1 and own 2.
Okay. And tell me about why you even manage for other people and how that even started going, right? Because it's the big chunk of your business.
Yeah. So to me, the best way to grow a business is to increase your ROI percentage, not to increase your cash flow. And what I mean by that is cash flow is great, but if it's costing you, call it $100,000 to get $1,000 a month, then you're only getting a 12% ROI. Math on that is $1,000 a month times 12 months, $12,000 divided by $100,000. That's 12% ROI. But when I manage for someone else, well, actually one step up. Now, if I arbitrage, let's say it cost me $10,000 to get into a unit. Well, now I just went and basically did call it almost over 100% ROI, because now we're going $12,000 a month divided into $10,000. That's like 120% ROI. So that's really good. But then managing, I don't have any financial responsibility in any of it. So I literally have an infinite return on my money. And am I making as much as an arbitrage or an ownership? No, but it's not that far off. Instead of making $1,000 a month, I'll make $650 to $700 a month, and no money in the deal, no risk. Plus, what I love is that I have owners who were satisfied with $200 to $300 of cash flow a month that are now getting $600, $700, $800 of cash flow a month, and they're freaking thrilled. They're like, wow, this is not anything that I ever thought would work, let alone in Fresno, California. And so word spreads on that. And I mean, I kind of go back to this all the time, but Jason Pritchard talks about it all the time. And that is this abundance mindset. And I was hiding Airbnb the first like 5 or 6 months because I didn't want anyone to know about it. I thought it was going to saturate the market. I thought it was going to like blow up and all these like doers around me were just going to go and just blow this thing up. And suddenly that $1,000 a month was going to go to $500 a month or whatever. But I listened to Jason. I had an abundance mindset. I shared it with people. And the amount of opportunities that came out of that has just blown up my business like I had never thought was possible. So that's really been the reason for blowing up this management side of it.
And so you hit it, but then the credibility that came behind it, how did people like start to trust you? What were you telling them at the beginning, right? Because let's say someone is at one, then they want to start doing an Airbnb management company. Like what were the conversations you were having with those people?
The conversations I was having with people were, there wasn't really much of a sale behind it, man. I just had built up the reputation by adding value first. I spoke at a couple meetup groups. I started talking about it on my podcast. I gave my mentor, John, basically a low entry fee to me being his manager for the very first one. And just through basically adding value and not expecting anything in return, people just started coming to me being like, hey, I heard you do Airbnb. Tell me more about it. Or, hey, I heard you're managing for these people. What can you make me? And I just got really good at evaluating properties and saying, okay, based on where this one is, here's what I think you could make. I made a calculator. Dean Rogers actually was the first one to be like, dude, make a calculator because I don't understand what I'm going to make. And so like, okay, yeah, it makes sense in my head, but it doesn't make sense to this person. So put it into an analyzer calculator and just started sharing that with people. And they were like, if this is true, then I want you to manage. And so there wasn't really much of a sale going on.
That is insane, right? And so now let's talk about how passive it is for you, right? So you have a business that is extremely passive. Like let's take a wholesaler. The amount of work that has to go in, let's say you get to scale, you operate at 30%, you're doing $100,000 a month. That gets you $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
Net profit.
Yeah.
With a bunch of moving parts,
right.
A bunch of nonsense and all this other stuff, to where if you just go to Airbnb arbitrage, you get to 30 grand a month, probably Q2, right? Like with just the rate of growth, you'll get there at Q2.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying if you're just starting, then by Q2, you can be at 30?
No, I'm talking about you currently.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for us, I mean, it just literally, I mean, we went from 0 to 25 in under 18 months, and that's over $20,000 net. And is it completely passive? No, it's not. But I don't think anything that you're growing or care about growing is ever completely passive. And that's where most of my time goes into is how do we make these systems better? How do we get more people coming in that we can manage for? How do we get more opportunities for properties? And so I'm very like on the side of the business where I can grow it and focus on the day-to-day of like, how do we make this better? But I have VAs, I have assistants. I just actually hired an assistant for my assistant that is going to help us get from 25 to 30 to 40. And cleaners. I mean, honestly, that at the end of the day, like is the lifeblood of the business. If we don't have good, reliable cleaners, then we don't have a business. And so,
what are you finding your cleaners?
You know,
and what is your vetting process?
Yeah, I'm huge on networking, honestly. Like, there's a couple technologies out there that third-party companies provide that help you find cleaners for Airbnb, and you can go the technology route and do that. But those become difficult for me because I don't have any trust with that person and I don't know them. And this is also, guys, why like I don't just go and say, oh, you've got a place in Las Vegas? Sure, I'll manage it for you. Like I need that trust with my team or else it's going to be a complete headache. So I'm very big on growing in the places that we have boots on the ground, and that's Fresno and Phoenix. And so I'll literally just post on Facebook and be like, looking for some cleaners, and I'll get a couple people tagged. I'll call people that are in my inner circle and just say, hey, we need some people. Do you know anyone that's a cleaner, or do you know anyone that's looking for some extra income and they're available between 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a daily basis? And those are really the ways that I found all of our cleaners. We have like, I want to say 9 cleaners on staff now, and they all came through just networking.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say your team looks like, and how did you build it, right? Because I do think, even though you're like, oh, I'm super into my company, it is a lot more passive than, say, a wholesaler.
Oh yeah.
To get a lot, I think, much better returns. You don't get access to deep properties, but then you have friends who get access to, between me and John, if you really want to go buy something, you can go buy something, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're asking how I built my team?
How you built your team and what your team looks like.
So the number one person that I hired right away was a cleaner that I asked, would you be willing to eventually jump into a admin / manager type of role? So that was the first person I talked to. And again, it was just a Facebook post. And I said something like, I'm looking for someone that's wanting to help out with some real estate related activities and admin from the hours of 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a daily basis. And someone got tagged. It was a person that I trusted. I talked to their cousin, or it was like sister-in-law or cousin or something like that. And they were like, yep, I would love to clean these places and then eventually like do more customer service and admin roles. And I was like, great. So literally just taught her how to clean these places and how to like start understanding the process of what I do on the back end. I added her as a co-host so she could see all this communication with guests. And then eventually when she proved herself in the first couple months of being a great cleaner and a great communicator, then I just gradually started giving her more and more and more. And together we started going out and trying to find more cleaners. Through my network of flipping, I had subcontractors, so AC guys, plumbers, handymen. And then I got connected with an interior designer that is just killer. She does work for all of my Airbnbs, and then any of the ones that we manage, we recommend her right away. And then I would like to get more VAs. VAs have been difficult just based on quality. So we're just still fine tuning that side of it. But yeah, from top to bottom, man, it really like it all started with one person that I knew could eventually be mini me. And if I could teach her to be mini me, then I could focus on growing the business. And then eventually when we get to the point where it's like, hey, we have 40 properties we don't want to do anymore in Fresno. It's just about like maintaining and keeping up things so that I can go focus on more in, call it Arizona or other places that I want to be to diversify a little bit.
Right. And let's talk about the COVID. What you did when COVID hit, and then the pivots you made, and then how you're like, bro, business is better than ever.
Yeah. Excuse me. Everyone talks about 2020 being like the worst year ever. And 2020 was literally the best year of my life. And that's not just a business standpoint. That's a lot of things. But I think COVID was a big time like eye opener for the Airbnb business for me in mostly good ways rather than bad. So the number one thing that I really realized during COVID was I don't want to be a long-term landlord. I don't want to have all these long-term rentals, because there was just like, as soon as COVID hit, we said, okay, we're going to do month-to-month short-term rentals, and we're going to get these people from Craigslist and Facebook and Zillow, and they'll just rent out month-to-month until this COVID thing passed. We had domestic violence issues. We had people just completely trashing the places. We had repairs that had to be done. We had so many different things during that time that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to be a regular landlord. This sucks. And meanwhile, not only was I not cash flowing the $1,000 a month, I was like lucky if I was walking away with $200 to $300. Right. And so that just really like, yeah, it hit me at the core. So, but I had about 8 units at that time, and I intentionally kept 3 on Airbnb because I wanted to see how they would perform. And dude, like rates went down maybe 5 or 10%, but occupancy stayed at 90 to 95%. I could not believe it. And so immediately we moved everything back to Airbnbs. And I just started screaming to the world, like, COVID is not affecting us, at least here in Central California. So get into Airbnb now. And most people were like, he's just trying to sell you something. And I wasn't. I was just literally telling people like, it's not hurting us. And little by little, that's when like all these people who own properties started reaching out to me and saying, hey, heard you're doing Airbnb, heard it's not being affected by COVID. Is that true? And that's when we went from 8 to 18 in like 2 months, and then to 25 like 2 or 3 months later. And it was all through managing for other people.
Right. And what I love about that, right, is that everything's on them as you're managing for them. You still get $1,000 a month. It's an infinite return. Your business has no actual marketing overhead costs.
Yep.
Think about that. And so you have a business that makes you $25,000 a month, that you work, would you say 15, 20 hours a week?
Yeah. It depends on what we have going on. Some weeks, like when we have new setups going on, I'm always having to just like coordinate a few more things and make sure that my teammates need everything they do. And then, like we have 3 that are going to be set up in the beginning of March. And so for that, at that time, because they're all clustered together, I'll be all hands on deck. You need me, I'll be over there, so things like that. But yeah, if we just have literally like no growth and we're just managing the properties, yeah, I might put in 2 hours a day at the most.
Right. And I think about all the effort that other people put into other businesses to get that type of cash flow, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
It's a pinch me moment, like on a daily basis.
Right. And it makes you evaluate like some people, what do you want your business to look like, dude? Like it's possible to have a great business, a lifestyle business. And you're like, bro, I don't need tons of money.
Yeah.
Like I make great money now. I live a great lifestyle. I don't need to get a jet. I don't need anything like that. And your life is amazing. You travel all the time. You spend time with your family. And then you still have something that's challenging you every day, to where if you really want to, like, bro, let's push the Airbnb thing. Let's see what I can do.
Exactly. I think you said something really important there, which is like, what do you want your lifestyle to look like? And people equate their business and their success way too much to the amount of money that they're making, rather than what do they want their lifestyle to look like. That is exactly how I built my business. I could keep, I could make the 25,000 and keep it all and be burnt out and just like, working like no other, or I could spend an extra $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to hire really good people and outsource this, still make really good money, and now have all my time and time freedom to be able to do what I want, when I want, wherever I want. Went to Austin a couple weeks ago and was able to put my phone away. Went to Arizona mainly for work, but for 4 days was there just for pleasure with my girlfriend, and put the phone away. And I just know I can do that because I have really good people on my team.
Yeah, that is amazing, dude. And so where do you want your business to look like? What do you want it to look like in like a year?
We really want to blow up Arizona. So anyone in the Phoenix, Goodyear, and that spans from Goodyear all the way over to Gilbert, which is like west to east Phoenix. We are really wanting to hit the ground running with managing for other people. So if anyone knows anyone, that's really what our big focus is right now. And I want to get to about 35 or 40 in Fresno and call it good there. I think that would be like the sweet spot of where, like, if we can just maintain that, then I'll be a very happy man, and I'll have 2 full-time employees that literally will never have to look for another job in their life if they don't want to.
Getting paid handsomely too, right? Like it's not like you're shortchanging these people. Like they're making more money they've ever made. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, literally my assistant texts me on a monthly basis being like, this is the most money I've ever made in my life. And so I love that. Like I love and going back to like the MLM thing, right? We had this whole like idea of helping people and like, creating a life change for people. For me, like there's nothing more life changing than knowing that you can help someone make money and like have more decisions. Like, this assistant of mine and then our next new assistant, like they both would have been majorly affected by COVID and unemployment. But because of this, like being able to help them still have a job and a really good paying job where they get to provide for their family, and they get to have more decisions now to either go on vacations or to, get their kids better Christmas presents. Like, that's been the biggest blessing of having this business.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
What do you consider your biggest achievement so far?
Whoa. In life or in this business?
In this business and in life, man. What's your biggest achievement in life?
Oh, you should have prepped me for this. Man, I think just off the top of my head, it's intertwined. They're probably the same thing. And just seeing that, it took me 10 years. That felt like a lifetime. I started my entrepreneurial journey at 23 years old. And I just, for the longest time, for 10 years was just like, well, I guess a lot of money is $100,000. And I guess, I'm just never going to be able to have time. It's just always going to be a grind. And then to get into this and see this thing grow and see like money is really not that difficult to get if you just understand how to get it and how you want your life to look. Finding the vehicle that was going to give me the lifestyle has been the biggest achievement, I would say, for me. I mean, I look back, like, I'm in this relationship right now, and she and I are just doing amazing, and we're so happy, and we're adding value to each other on a daily basis. And I look back and I'm like, man, the biggest thing that I struggled with in past relationships and day-to-day basis was just having financial stress. And like, when I was with past relationships, I couldn't just be there and be present because I was so like, am I missing deals? Like, I'm barely even making ends meet, and I'm living paycheck to paycheck as this struggling entrepreneur, like a starving artist almost. And I couldn't focus on anyone but myself. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you have that realization when you are making decent money that you can finally stop worrying about how are you going to pay for your bills, and you start worrying about, hey, how can I help others pay for their bills, or how can I provide more value? Because now suddenly you don't have this selfish mindset. I had to be selfish because I could barely keep the lights on myself, So to me, like that's been the biggest accomplishment, is just like feeling like I've reached that moment in my life where I can actually give to the people around me rather than trying to take, So yeah, that without being prepped for that question, that's the best I can do.
That's a strong answer, and it's a strong thing to be able to do, right? I want to be able to, at least for me, like, I want to set up my employees' retirements, right? Like, okay, we're buying this deal. Here's you guys being with us. You get equity in this deal, and this will be part of your own retirement plan, just for being with us, right?
Absolutely.
To where they feel secure. Real quick, just in case we have people who are just getting started out, what was the conversation like with your first arbitrage property? What did you tell them? How did all that go? And then,
really, it's just about providing a solution for these people. That's what any good sell is just showing them, hey, here's what I know you go through on a daily basis, from taking calls at 11 p.m. from people who have lost their hot water, to rent being not paid on time, to not knowing what the property looks like, and suddenly the lease is up, and 12 months later you're going in there and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a hole in the wall, this door is off the hinge, there's all this chip paint, all these things that you deal with. I can be that solution because I'm seeing the property on a weekly basis. Our cleaners are going in there sometimes as much as 7 times a week if we have a day-to-day turnover. I can be the first to pay you out of anyone because I want to stay in this property years and years and years to come. And I just worked on like providing solutions, and I did it in a professional way. I met them in person. I didn't try to pitch them over the phone. I showed up with marketing material. I showed them my references. I showed them my reviews, and I just tried to make them feel very comfortable with me as a person, and as well by connecting with like good insurance people, because that was the big question that all these landlords have. How are we going to be, protected by insurance? And having a good insurance person on my side that was going to be able to answer those questions, so I didn't have to. I would say it's just a combination of like knowing how to hit those pain points that those landlords go through and providing those solutions and doing it in a professional way.
I love that. And what's the best piece of advice you'd give to someone getting started?
Just do it. And one of my students, I love this. Their names are Cooper and Kyle. They partnered together and they got their first arbitrage deal. And they said, we're probably going to break even year one, which is not usually a deal that I would suggest that people do. But they were like, the reason we're going to do this deal is because we know we're going to learn so much from doing it. And so I said, yeah, if like literally all you even get out of this is just learning how to manage this thing and to be able to understand just like what your numbers are and your capacity is to scale, then I say do it all day long. So just do it. And your risk is so low too. Like if you get an arbitrage unit, think about this, your security deposit plus your first month's rent plus the furniture. If you're doing things yourself, you might be invested $10,000 to start what could eventually be a 6-figure income, almost completely passive business. That is like nothing. And then do yourself a favor and go get my course, spend only another $997 and make sure you're taking the right path. And now you're $11,000 into starting a business that could eventually be, again, a 6-figure, maybe even 7-figure if you really want to blow the thing up. And just do it, because if you lose $11,000, I mean, I've been in businesses where I've lost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on investments I made for creating apps and buying franchises, and it never paid me back. And even that payoff was going to be a lot of work and not even as much money as I make in Airbnb. So like the payoff is just so huge. Just go spend a little bit of money and just do it.
That's crazy. Anything else, man, that you want to leave them with?
I call it the Fearless Investor podcast because I just want people to have the education and the desire to want to be fearless. So I think that is at the end of the day what forces people into action. Is you're either fearful of the lifestyle that you currently live and you're so uncomfortable with it that it forces you into action, or you're fearful of what if I fail and what if this doesn't work, that you never get into action. So make sure the fear is coming from the right place and it's more of a discomfort of not wanting to be in your current circumstances. You have to get so uncomfortable that the pain will push you until the vision pulls you.
I love it. Thank you, Kyle, man.
You got it. Thanks, buddy.
Talk to you soon, bro. Have a great day. Thanks for
You
tuning
too.
in, guys.